one of the biggest misconceptions about what I do is people, who, like you said, who aren't in the company, who don't see the behind the scenes stuff. They think, oh, Mitch just shows up at, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, walks in and, sees the show and leaves. And it could not be more false. I mean, I am up at 7:15 in the morning. We're on meetings, we're on phone calls. My partners and I are running around town. I mean, there are so many intricate parts of just putting on one of these shows.
For someone that most of us are used to seeing in the dead of night, we bring him out into the daylight. I feel very fortunate to be in the position that I am, to have met the people who I have that give me the opportunity to speak to people like you, because I think that through conversation and through experience, that is where you truly get to know someone, understand what they do, but more importantly, understand why we go about doing that. So before I unveil who it is that I have in front of me, I would like them to introduce themselves. And that is simply done by me asking, who is Mitch Vargo?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to take the time to chat. I would say, I'm born and raised here in Cleveland. So Cleveland's in my blood. It's what I know. Lived here my whole life. Did a short 4-year stint in Arizona for college. So that was kind of my time where I moved out, experienced, other cities and stuff for a long period of time. Came back, no intention of staying, and kind of got sucked into what I'm doing. But I think if you were to ask family, friends, coworkers, my business partners, whoever, they would tell you that I'm a pretty ambitious, driven individual. Whatever I put my energy into, I kind of try to do it to the fullest extent. So I think that's kind of how I would describe my personality and how I go about things in life.
And you tried to get out of Cleveland.
I did, yes. Yes. I always said, growing up here, everyone's like, oh, Cleveland, the weather sucks, this and that, I always say Cleveland sucks until you got to leave. Once I moved out to Arizona, I loved my time at college, not discounting it whatsoever. Every time I got to come back to Cleveland, whether it was for a break or a surprise birthday party or whatever it was, balls to the wall, I was ready to go. It's one of my favorite places on planet Earth.
It's so true, and it doesn't get the credit that it deserves.
100%.
But it's not recognized until you actually do wind up leaving.
100%.
I've got a few friends that are in Chicago, and they would go ahead and they say, wow, I didn't realize just how much, not necessarily that there was a bubble of Cleveland in a bad way, but they were just like, oh my gosh, that group of people in that surrounding area are all true to who we are. That is so different than those outside of the Cleveland area.
Could not be more than true.
Yes. Yeah. And as Colin Stevens said, who is on this podcast, he goes, Cleveland's popping. Cleveland is a wonderful place to be.
Cleveland's fun, man. I mean, Cleveland's fun. Where, I tell everybody who's never been here, I'm like, you can't judge it until you come experience it. And I deal with that every week when we're bringing talent into town.
Yep.
Having a lot of these people come to Cleveland for the first time and they experience it and they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize this existed here.
Right. And that's the main thing that I think so many people are going to be interested in, and that is the peek behind the curtain of Cleveland that you see. Tell people what it is that you have been doing for all this time.
So, when I came back from college, I didn't have a clear path on what I wanted to do. I went to school for marketing and I minored in finance. So for the longest time, I kind of wanted to steer in that direction on the business side of things. I always knew I wanted to be in business. I didn't really know what, but I knew I wanted to be in business. My whole family's either in medicine or law. So I'm like the black sheep. I'm like totally out of that. Not something I would want to do. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do until I came home and, through a backstory, which I'm sure we'll get into, I got a phone call from a guy named Bobby, who's now my business partner. And I started working for Forward Hospitality Group. So what I kind of do is I wear multiple hats, but kind of the 30-second synopsis of it is I oversee all of our nightlife and kind of food and beverage destinations here in Cleveland. So majority of that is down in the Flats East Bank. We do have a couple locations up in the Van Aken district on the east side. And then also, about a year and a half ago, I actually did become a partner in the company. So that was a very, very cool moment for me.
And congratulations for that.
Thank you.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was a pretty defining moment.
And it's something that you have been working so hard for the last couple of years to get to that point. Did you do anything to celebrate?
Honestly, I really didn't. Yeah. I was actually I was on vacation in Miami at the time. I remember when I got the email that the deal was going to go through, and it was something that I had kind of been hopefully anticipating for like 6-7 months prior. Mm-hmm. But it was just, there's so much back and forth and nobody really knows what's going on, especially because I have no control over it. But no, I just, we just came home and we got back to work.
Yeah. I think celebrating for each and every person is going to look different, but making sure that you take the time to acknowledge everything that you've done is a big part of making sure that we stay connected with how huge our accomplishments are and have been over time.
Yeah.
Because it's just far too often where you can have someone accomplish so much in such a short period of time, and it's like sometimes they just never stop and, for lack of a better word, stop and smell the roses, stop and smell the flowers, because it's huge what you've been able to do, not only for yourself, but also the people who you've been able to impact. And I think this goes quite literally as far and as deep as individual experiences that you help people cultivate by simply just going and being within the atmosphere of these venues that you and your group have put together.
Yeah, it's I know we briefly spoke about it. I mean, one of the coolest things is when people, whether they're just coming in for a night out to blow some steam off, or celebrating a milestone, whether it's a birthday, bachelor, bachelorette, anniversary, whatever it is, to have those people come in and give us kind of control of spending their night and doing that with us. And then after the fact, when they're like, oh my God, I came to Forward and I saw 2 friends and it was like the best show ever. I love country music and now I don't have to go to Nashville. I can just go down to the farm. It's a really cool feeling. And it's something that, I didn't realize how much of an impact it had till probably like the past year. But it's one of the greatest feelings ever.
Where did the idea for Forward come from?
So Forward originated in 2013. I was not a part of it. My business partners, Bobby, Michael, and Dante, they were like the 3 originators of it. So they opened in 2015. Obviously is this like kind of black sheep concept. I mean, it's an outdoor nightclub on the water in Cleveland, Ohio. Like, who in their right mind would think that's a good idea? So they, Michael was kind of the forefront behind it of like, I want to do this club. He's been in hospitality for, 25, 30 plus years. I mean, he's been doing it his whole life. So he's very good at what he does. And, they just kind of built it up. I noticed through social media and when that all really started to take off on a business front, because the marketing that it can provide your brand. Yeah. While I was in college, that these guys were doing something in Cleveland that was pretty extraordinary. Never thought I would be working for them, but when I kind of figured out that I was gonna go in this route of hospitality and give it a shot, they were the only guys I would even consider talking to in Cleveland.
Right.
Yeah.
Gosh, and you have so many things that you put on within the Forward venue, such as concerts. And then what's the thing going on with Mondays right now?
Oh, the I Hate Mondays parties. Yeah.
Yes.
Those, so we're a part of them. It's not something that we, put on.
Okay.
What it is, there's a pretty influential DJ in the Cleveland area who basically went to all the club operators. He thinks outside the box a lot. He's a great guy. He went to all the club operators and basically was like, look, I want to do this party, and every club will agree to come and buy a table and spend money at, their competitors, on a Monday, because it's the only time when they can all go out, because everyone's always working on the weekends. So Forward's a part of it. Goodnight John Boy's a part of it. It's a cool experience. It's very different.
Yeah.
Which is not something that a lot of places, ours included, and everyone else would typically see on a weekly basis.
Wow. And I think what I'd be also curious to know the ins and outs of is booking talent for these larger weekend events.
Yeah.
How do you guys go about doing that?
It's a process, man. It's a process. My partner Dante, he was really at the forefront of it when we were just a Cleveland operation. Now we're in Cleveland, we're Columbus, we're in St. Pete, we're opening in Chicago next week. We have stuff coming online in Miami at the end of the year. So the catapult and trajectory that we're on is pretty crazy. I got pulled into the talent booking about a year ago, and really learned the ins and outs of dealing with talent buyers and agents and sending offers and routing. It's crazy. I mean, we start cultivating the Forward calendar in like January, so it's a long process of seeing who's available, if they're in the States, how much money they're asking for, how much, and everyone, it's a business deal. I mean, every offer is different. Some include travel, some don't. Some need certain hotels. Some want plane tickets, some want private planes. So it's just, it's a long process.
Yeah, and like you said, there's so much that goes into it, and it's so fun to hear every bit of that behind the scenes aspect of it, because most people only ever experience waiting in line to get in, and then just having the most fun ever at these events. And I think what's huge in what you also bring to the table is your marketing background and your ability to recognize how important marketing is. Because not a lot of people are going to know about it if it's not marketed and marketed correctly.
100%.
How do you go about picking and choosing who you have do your marketing, and more importantly, the way that it's done?
So we have his Dylan and Dante. So Dante is my business partner. Dylan oversees all our marketing. They are so much better at that than I am. That's why they're in that seat and I'm not. And part of the reason I think our entire group is so successful is because we do play off each other's strengths. If you got to know what you're good at and what you're not good at, right? So Dylan is a great kind of sounding board to sit down with, and okay, we should do it this way, or we should do that, or we should announce these shows on these days because so and so's in town, and it's after we do a show that's like that in the same genre. So there's a lot that goes into it. He kind of handles all of that, and I definitely trust him 100% of the time.
Yes.
And a lot of the times we're pretty successful at it, and sometimes, look, you're not always going to win. But that's life. That's business.
Yeah. And I think the hype to bring something until it comes to fruition is, in some cases, a lot bigger than even the side of planning for what is actually to happen. And I guess what I mean by that is, like, what's going to happen at the event is going to happen. It's going to be a great time. But it's like you need to let people know that it's going to be a great time. And part of that is by referencing and showing what has happened in the past
Yes.
to make an expectation of what's to come.
Yes.
And that is why I have so much respect for you and your business partners, because in order to get to the place that you are all in and what is under the Forward Hospitality Group, you had to start somewhere. And seriously, take a look at where you guys are now.
It's pretty crazy.
It's beyond impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's, one of the things that we really tried to strategize, which really ties into the marketing side of it, is, obviously when you open a place and you're trying to figure out, okay, what's the concept? Who are we trying to draw? How big is that pull, in this market, whatever it might be, is counter programming, right? So, we now have 4 spots, as all you could throw a football to each one. I mean, they're right next to each other. But they all counter program each other great. One of them is a 20,000 square foot Vegas, Miami style nightclub that is absolutely crazy, that features some of the biggest talent in the world. Right next door, you have a country bar that's all live music where you feel like you're on Broadway in Nashville. Right across the street, you have a 70s disco bar, and then recently, a couple weeks ago, we opened a rooftop above the country bar called Glamper.
Yes.
Which was a whole crazy thing in itself.
Is that right?
Yes. So that's a pretty funny story. The amount of times that changed and the stuff that we were going to do, that, like you said, that behind the scenes stuff that nobody really sees.
I'll tell you what, I think I've spent more time at Glamper than I have at a lot of the other places, just because I love the aspect where you're at the bar, but you're also outside, but you're kind of inside. It's a total vibe, because you're right. Each one of them has their own different spin to it. Mm-hmm. And I think something that I want to definitely make note of and acknowledge is the fact that your group has been able to put the correct spin on each one of those different styles of bars. It doesn't come off corny. It comes off like exactly what the person would want if they were thinking or expecting for what it is that they were going to be walking into. Like, welcome to the farm. I think that you get exactly what you would think of when you would walk in there. With the Glamper, I think you would get exactly what you think of when you walk in there. And same thing with Ford. You get more than what you would even expect by walking in there.
It can be a lot to handle.
Yes.
It's fun. It's fun. That's, again, playing off people's strengths and weaknesses. That's something, my partner Michael and Bobby too, we're all good at it. He's amazing at it.
Yeah.
I mean, he sees a space, being able to walk into a brand new venue that's a shell, like no HVAC, no floors, no nothing. He can tell right there what it should be, how it should be designed, where the bar should go, and that's something that I try to work with them on, because I want to be able to do that in 10 years and be able to walk into a space and just immediately know, if I take enough time, I can get to that point. But he's definitely mastered it for a long time.
Yeah. So you've got, at least within this Cleveland area, you've got Forward, you've got Glamper, you've got Welcome to the Farm. And can you talk more about what it is that you have here specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, Forward, which is the EDM, top 40 kind of Vegas, Miami style club. Welcome to the Farm. We're partners with Chase Rice on that, country music singer. Nashville, Broadway vibe. Glamper, which is kind of just like, kind of glamorous camping, your backyard barbecue type vibe up on a roof, which is pretty special. It's the only rooftop down there. Goodnight John Boy, which is like a 70s disco bar, kind of 80% disco, 20% modern stuff, but we put a spin on it, of course. The whole shtick behind that is it's kind of like your grandma's basement. So it's got shag carpet and a light up LED dance floor, a giant disco ball. It's pretty fun. And then in the Van Aken district, we have Garden City, which is another rooftop of ours. It's more curated based off of craft cocktails. So up there, it's, not your vodka sodas and your high noons like it is downtown. It's, more sophisticated, multiple part drinks that don't necessarily take 30 seconds to make. And then totally contrary below it, we have a fast casual burger concept with a full liquor license called Shake It.
Really?
Yeah. So burgers, chicken fingers, fries, all the greasy hangover food that you're going to eat after you come to our places at night.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember we were almost needing to reschedule it because you said that you had something that's going up in Chicago. What's that?
Yeah, so my partner Dante's opening a Goodnight John Boy in Chicago.
No.
Yeah, so right in the middle of West Loop. We're opening next week. There was going to be some work we had to do this week, so I thought I might have to be out there, but I ended up not having to go. So it opens Wednesday of next week, so it's very, very exciting. We're down to the wire with that one.
Now, what dictates the grand opening? Is it the day that you think that you'd be ready, that you started marketing that it was going to happen? So you need to make it happen because all the marketing went into for it to say it was going to happen that day?
Kind of, yes.
Okay.
So we do, every venue we've ever done, the grand opening per se is, it's a process. So basically what we do, there's the soft opening.
Okay.
So for example, with John Boy Chicago, there's going to be 2 days of soft openings. It's invite only, friends and family, we fill the room, if you want to do some sort of private cocktail party or whatever with your friends, we kind of build onto that with our friends and our clients. It's kind of like a 2 degrees of separation thing, right? So we'll do that for 2-3 days leading up. It gets the social media going. It gets the buzz going. Everybody wants to know what's going on. And then obviously they find us on Instagram due to all the organic marketing that we hope it creates. And then we do a grand opening. And it's they go pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me how we are never truly, in so much ways, satisfied with what we have. We always want more. And I think what is so productive and beneficial with that mindset is with what it is that you and your team are doing and the service and the value that you're providing. I mean, you are essentially just like a factory of happiness. You are a factory of making people feel good, because I think what it truly boils down to is everyone is thinking to themselves that by participating and being involved within the atmosphere that you create, that is a feeling of self-fulfillment that people have. And it also brings a sense of excitement that you can't get anywhere else.
100%. 100%. We try not to get caught up on this is the hottest place or this is the place you have to go. We tell our staff all the time, training and at pre-shifts, we just try to show up and do a better job than we did the night before. And as hard as it may be sometimes, to make sure each guest is individually looked after and we make sure they have a good time to whatever degree that may be.
Yeah.
We don't care if you're in general admission, you're in VIP. We want to make sure everybody's taken care of and everybody has a good time.
Yeah, and I think that you absolutely do that, so much so. I mean, that's the reason why you have lines getting into your place, because think about it, like Cleveland is a big city. There's a lot going on, specifically in the downtown area. You've got West 25th, you've got East 4th, you've got these places, but your guys' area down in the Flats just continues to be what I would refer to as the epicenter of where you are going to have amongst the best time that you could when you're in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, when I have friends over and from out of town, before it was another bar that was, outside of the Flats. Now I'm going down to the Flats. And to your point, we have the opportunity to circle around to all of these different bars because they are less than a stone's throw away from one another.
It's very beneficial.
That is a value add in and amongst itself.
Yeah.
Because before, you'd probably only go to like one place and you'd be there unless you wanted to Uber. And
Exactly.
if you wanted to Uber, then it's just like, okay, well, how many people do you have?
Who's
Can you
paying
get the
for the
Uber? Who's
Uber?
paying for the Uber? How do
Yeah.
you split? Like every bit of that. You don't even have to worry about that with that going on.
Yeah. So being able to have, like you said, kind of that epicenter, or
Yep.
you know, have it be just the total, you know, I don't even like really know the word I'm looking for, but like you said, it's just, I mean, it's an entertainment district.
Yeah.
So people go down there when they want to be entertained, and there's, you know, including us and not including us, there's 10, 12 plus experiences down there that you can go, and they're all totally different.
And I think a huge reason for your team's success is you work as a team. There are several times within the time that we've been speaking, who you've mentioned, we work off of each other's strengths.
All the time.
Vince Liuzzi had said that there are these things called Clifton strengths, and you take a either or quiz. So on two ends, you have would you do this or would you do that, and it gives you 5 options, you know, like neutral or leaning towards this side or strongly this side. And what that does is it helps you identify your strengths. And some of it is, you know, empathy, positivity, the ability to, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's like the ability to just like get things done.
Yeah.
And I would almost be super curious what it is that each one of your team members rank on there. And I'd imagine that it's very spread out and diversified, because what it is that you all have been able to do, it does not happen by accident. It doesn't.
No, it's it definitely is very curated.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we do that has helped us a lot. There's this operating system that is a company. I mean, from the top down, we operate off of.
Yeah.
It's how we communicate. It's how we put people in certain seats and keep each other accountable for our jobs, right? So, you know, one of the most interesting exercises we've ever done, it was myself, all my business partners, we were all sitting around a table. This was probably a year and a half ago. And we were sitting around this table, and we have a mediator who does all these meetings for us. They're like 8-9 hours long, an entire day. It's a lot. And we sat down, and he said, okay, he goes, I want you guys to all write down. We had a piece of paper in front of us. He said, everybody write down the top 10 people in this company. Just write them down. Just write their names down. Nobody share anything. And then we'll go around the room and we'll name the 10 names that each person had. So we took a couple minutes. Everybody wrote down their thoughts, and he went around the room and he said, okay, what, your 10 names, your 10 names, your 10 names. And we looked up at the board, and there was a ton of overlap. And then he wrote down each name on the board, and he said, okay, now we're going to go around, and you're going to say, why are these people up here? What qualities do they have that put them on your list, or at the you know? And you know, that was very impactful, because we kind of center our core values around these certain traits, and you know how we hire people. You know, we say we hire and fire based around our core values, because we want to make sure not only that people are a good culture fit for us, but that we're a good culture fit for them. There's plenty of people that they're great people. It's just not a right fit. That's life, you know? So to be able to build kind of your team based around that, and just 3 or 4 like really solid core values, it's been so helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think about, especially after hearing you explain every bit that goes behind it, is your thought process and your ability to look and see and feel and experience. And what I mean by that is, when I put this podcast together, I have a different experience than the people who watch it, than the people who listen to it. I am going through and setting up. I am doing the interview. I am putting all of that together in post-production. and then I have a final product.
Yeah.
That is the work that goes behind it. And I enjoy that work so much. And I enjoy the product that comes out. And what drives me to continue to do it is the value that I see it offering, not only to the person in front of me, but to those that are listening. But once again, it's a different experience than the listener. So with that being said, a lot of this stuff that you are putting together for thousands of people is something that you yourself are not necessarily experiencing in the same way that the people that you are putting this on for are. Have you ever thought about that?
I have.
Okay.
Yes. So, one of the biggest misconceptions about what I do is people, who, like you said, who aren't in the company, who don't see the behind the scenes stuff. They think, Mitch just shows up at, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, walks in and, sees the show and leaves. And it could not be more false. I am up at 7:15 in the morning. We're on meetings, we're on phone calls. My partners and I are running around town. There are so many intricate parts of just putting on one of these shows, between managing the talent, making sure that they get into town for travel, making sure that the hotels are right. If they want to go out to dinner, where do they want to go to dinner? Can we get a table at the restaurant? Does it have to be private? Do we have all the drinks that they want? There's a lot. And so it is so much work during the daytime that by the nighttime we're exhausted. When I'm up there and I'm seeing the show, it's kind of like it's a really cool moment for me, because like you said, seeing all that behind the scenes stuff, and when you see it come together as one product, it's a really cool feeling. And being someone like me, where, I want to know if I did a good job right there or then, so being in the hospitality scene, you can. I can look out at a crowd and tell you if people are having fun or not, and being kind of the key holder of that experience, like the night of on the ground type stuff. Typically on the table side, I know a lot of the people that are in the venue. So just walking around and talking to people and getting that feedback is really awesome.
Please know, because it may or may not come to you as often as it should, but every bit of your effort, even from me not knowing exactly what goes behind the scene, it does not go unnoticed.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something my team and I sometimes need to be a little better at. Look, we're very good at getting our jobs done behind the scenes just to make sure that we throw a good party. We realize, my partners, myself, our managers, our leads, we know that we're not the party, and we're there to make sure the party happens, right? So being able to recognize that is huge, because not a lot of people in this industry recognize that.
Oh, especially when you are pulling yourself essentially from the party, or at least the same experiences that those are at the party having. Like you're pulling yourself from that. And yes, you are able to enjoy it. But I think that's what I respect so much about you, is your drive to look past certain things for yourself to give others the experience that you can cultivate, that they can enjoy, that's going to impact so many people. And that is such a selfless act, but it's something that you and your team continue to do day in and day out. And especially in some cases with the shorter time frame with these outside events, because Cleveland has absolutely one of the craziest, shortest, wildest, weirdest, summers that we have. It literally goes from, 20 degrees all the way to like 87 in a split second. And then it rains, and then it's humid. It's just like, oh my gosh, can we get a break?
Yeah, it's the weather is a huge factor for us, obviously, especially at Forward. This past weekend, 4th of July, was a perfect example. We had shows lined up every day: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, with Tuesday being like our biggest show of the week. We put a lot on the line, not only the planning, but the financials and getting, people into town and staff and security and, it's a lot. Yeah. So when you wake up on a Thursday and you see that it's supposed to rain every day, it's not the best feeling. But I mean, look, I don't know how. God was clearly on our side, but we lucked out. We didn't have to cancel anything. Yeah. We threw, 6 or 7 great parties, and it was a very, very successful weekend.
I think that those holiday weekends are huge because it's something that a lot of people are looking forward to.
100%.
And they're looking for something to do, but they don't want to spend it essentially not knowing what it is that they're going to get. They want to do something that they know that they're going to enjoy.
Yes.
Now, I think that I want to take kind of a step back and go back to what I was saying about you provide all of this value to those that are participating within the events and the venues that you are hosting. And in some which ways, you are providing support to all these people. But who's there to support Mitch?
I have an amazing, my family, of course, is always there for me. My mom, my dad, my sisters, they're the best support system there is. I talk to my mom like 3 times a day. She's my best friend. And then obviously my business partners are the most supportive guys. It's a pretty cool dynamic because I'm significantly younger than them. So having them kind of at my forefront in they have much more experience just in life.
Yeah.
And it's not always about work. Sometimes it's about life. I've definitely had very high highs and very low lows, which have made me the person I am today. But they're always there for me. And I, of course, have the best group of friends ever that I can go to about anything. Yeah. So kind of having that it's a very special thing.
Where do you stack up amongst your sisters and when you guys were born?
I'm the middle child.
Are you?
Yeah,
really?
So I have an older sister, Alex, and my younger sister, Maddie. They do not live in Ohio. My older sister's in Texas. My younger sister's in Florida.
Yeah.
So my parents, who are still here part of the year, they kind of juggle us all around. But yes, I am the middle child. I'm the only boy.
And that's like the opposite for me because I have me and I'm the oldest. And then my brother's the middle child. And then my sister, the little princess, she is the youngest.
Yeah.
So I was always curious about that because I'm very, very close with my mom as well. Mm-hmm. Same thing, it's like I'll call her and just talk to her for like a minute in the morning and then like an hour in the middle of the day and then like another 5 minutes at the end of the day.
Yeah, my mom is one of the best sounding boards ever. Growing up, I spent a lot of time with my dad. I played travel hockey going into high school. So we were out of town 2-3 weekends a month. I mean, for 9 months out of the year. So, my dad is definitely more the tough love kind of guy. He's like, suck it up. So whenever I need something, I'll call my mom and she definitely gives me more sympathy. But no, they're the best. They're the best sounding boards ever.
Yeah. I have so much respect for you with the time that you spent in hockey because that is not an easy sport whatsoever.
You take a beating.
Oh, my goodness, you do. It was fun because when I was in college, I went to Miami down in Oxford, and I was literally walking down the sidewalk, and there was this, because I was a freshman, and we hadn't rushed yet, and there was a fraternity brother who was like, who I like knew through some of the parties that we went to, and he said, "Do you play hockey?" And I was just like, no. He goes, well, what may be your experience on the ice? And I was just like, I go ice skating with my friends during the winter.
Yeah.
He was like, you're perfect. So I wound up hopping on this intramural team with him and the fraternity that I actually wound up joining. And what was super cool about that is it was a sport that I'd never played before, but I taught myself to skate backwards. I taught myself the hockey stop.
Oh yeah.
I started to understand the intricacies of the different ways that you can actually hit the puck.
Oh yeah. And
I was just, then there's a toe drag and then there's the offsides. The amount of times I got hit on the back of the head because I was offsides and I'm like 8 games in, still not understanding what offsides is. And I think what that taught me is that you don't need to be or having had done something to either one, be able to enjoy it, or two, be able to learn it. I mean, that's the whole point of being able to learn something, is that you not having had the opportunity to do that. And I think that circles back to, once again, a kudos to you to dive in to an opportunity that you saw to not only find something that you do that's fulfilling, but then also something that is going to allow you to have an impact on people. Is the impact on people, is the service that you provide others, has that always been something that you've had just internally? Have you kind of taught yourself that, service above self is something that is going to have a positive impact on both you and others? How has that all come to fruition?
Yeah, I think it's something that really came to fruition for me in an internship that I had going into my senior year of college.
Yeah.
So, going back to my college days, I had to do, I went to school at the University of Arizona.
Okay.
I was in the Eller College of Management. And going into my senior year, we had to have an internship for credit. I wanted to, I applied to, I don't even remember how many finance internships, because like I said, the marketing internships they had they didn't really get my blood pumping. I didn't want to stay in Tucson. I didn't want to go to Scottsdale. I wanted to do something new, something out of the box, and not really come back to Cleveland. It was my summer. I never studied abroad.
Yeah.
I was supposed to in Barcelona with a bunch of my friends, and it fell through.
Yeah.
So that I always kind of said that was like my study abroad summer. Like, where am I going to go? Where am I going to live? So I applied for a bunch of finance internships. I got none of them besides one, and it was in New York. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I ended up not doing it, which is kind of like the funny part. I was so scared to tell my dad, but I knew that I was kind of knew that I had interest in hospitality. It wasn't something that I was like gung ho on doing. And I just thought, maybe I'll try and get an internship in hospitality. Maybe something will come about, something that's fun. It's kind of out of the box, whatever. And to be honest, I didn't want to go work 150 hours a week and wear a suit every day in New York. Nothing against people that do that whatsoever. It's just, it's not for me. And I've always been, self-sufficient on kind of building something that is me, not, doing something else. So I went online and I like scoured LinkedIn and different, the big hospitality groups. I mean, the SBEs, H Woods, everything. And I found all the top people in these companies. I mean, I didn't know anybody. I found tons of people's emails and I typed out this like cover letter type email introducing myself, who I am. I basically was like, I don't have any experience. I need an internship. This is what I'm going to school for. Is this even something that's possible? Probably sent a dozen, 12, 18 emails. Nobody got back to me besides one person. And it was this guy who is the director of marketing for a group down in Miami, Florida, which is now Groot Hospitality. So Dave Grutman's umbrella of venues. Obviously, they were much smaller at the time. And him and I spoke for probably about a month via email back and forth. And I remember I was like, I cannot call my parents, especially my dad, and be like, I'm going to go intern in nightlife and restaurants, and which was so dumb. I mean, I totally could have, but at the time, I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I remember I was emailing him, and he emailed me back one day after about a month of talking, and he goes, when can you meet me in my office? I was like, I'll be there tomorrow. And I Venmo'd my big of my fraternity to buy my flight to Miami so my parents wouldn't see it in my bank account because they had access to my bank account. I flew to Miami, cross country the next day. I didn't have class, and packed a little bag. And I remember I called my mom when I got there because I needed a hotel where I could get dry cleaning because I was an idiot and didn't get anything dry cleaned before I came because it was on such a whim. So I went there, I took the meeting, I flew right back to Arizona. It was like one of the craziest things. And once I got offered the internship and like had a solidified kind of synopsis of what it entailed, that's when I kind of presented it to them.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing the internship. I moved down there for like 3.5, 4 months, worked for free, didn't make a dime. It was some of the best experience I've ever had in my life. And, you know, one of the things, you know, David is very good at his places is he just takes this out of reality type vibe at all of his places. And the service is I mean, it's next to none. I mean, it's the best. It's the best of the best.
Wow.
So kind of being a little bit behind the scenes of that and just doing what I was told, and seeing how many relationships he had with celebrities and DJs and athletes, and how everyone was like, if you're in Miami, you go to one of his spots. That is when I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I wanna do this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what started it for me.
What a story.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's amazing. Now, something like that reminds me of something that I saw on Instagram today. Who posted it? Her Instagram's Taylor AF Beauty, and she posted something that said, if you weren't ready, you wouldn't have the opportunity.
I saw you post this right before I left to come here.
Dude,
yeah.
That just, it hit. Because if you think about it, what you just said through the first part of that story was you didn't have the experience. You didn't really have anything that would make someone say, you know, this person is why I want them, because they have this based off of what's written on a piece of paper for what they've done in the past. You basically said, I am driven. I am looking for an opportunity. I am ready. And if you give it to me, I will take it. And I will work 10, 100 times harder than anyone else that you would bring to do exactly what it is that I'm offering.
100%.
Yeah.
I tell everybody that I'll outwork anybody.
Yep.
If I'm putting my mind to it, and especially putting, you know, my kind of like personal brand behind it, I will outwork anybody, and I will make sure it's perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is a true testament to why you are where you are today for as young as you are. I mean, that's huge, dude.
Yeah, it's definitely something I need to take more time to reflect on sometimes.
Yeah. And honestly, that is one of the biggest reasons why I feel so fortunate to have the opportunity to have this platform, because that is one of the biggest reasons for the person that I have on and the value that I bring to them. It's just take a freaking moment, you know, take a moment to recognize all that you do. It doesn't mean take your foot off the pedal.
Oh, no. Can't do that.
What it means is like take a moment, maybe put it on cruise control so you stay the same speed, but then just look out the window. Just see everything that you've surrounded yourself with, because you are the only person that will truly ever understand what it is that you've done, what it is that you've gone through, and more importantly, why it is that you do it. And that's something so unique. It's something that you will carry with yourself for the rest of your life. And although no one will truly understand it, even if you were to try to explain it to someone, it's something that you should definitely reflect on and understand how important you are and how much you do to impact every single person that you do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know, over, you know, the last like year, really kind of year and a half, more so like 2022-ish going into 2023, you know, my life was all over the place with work, my personal life, stuff with family. I dealt with some loss with, you know, I lost my grandma, who was like one of my best friends, and just personal stuff that we had going on. You know, and one of the things that it did, unfortunately, was I had a lot of defining moments per se, right? And I didn't take any time to really, as you would say, celebrate those. And looking back on it now a year later, I'm like so pissed at myself, because I'm like, these certain things you miss out on, or you don't, like you said, take time to reflect. And then, I mean, you're never going to get that moment back. So it's really taught me, like you said, to kind of sit around, and sometimes, people will make fun of me because they'll see me at the club and they'll be like, are you staring off into space with everything? And I sit there sometimes by the DJ booth and I just look around and really take time to soak it in and appreciate it, because to have some of these shows come to Cleveland and to be able to share them with people and pack the house and show everybody these DJs that you wouldn't be able to see unless you were in Vegas or Miami or New York or whatever, it's a super special thing.
Yeah, dude. That's so awesome. And it makes me so happy to hear you say that, because it's so true. It gives you the opportunity to recognize how much it is that you have. And that is every bit of what most of us don't take the time to understand. And I think one of the best things that you can do when you reflect is to think about all of the things that make you smile, whether that be an experience, whether that be a person, whether that be the people that you have experiences with. Yeah. And I can tell that you are someone who enjoys surrounding yourself around those that not only you care about, but they care about you.
100%. 100%. You want to keep, it's like the most cliche thing, because you hear people say it all the time, but you really got to, keep your circle small. Being a little more on the private side, and definitely just kind of keeping those around you that are really your tight-knit group it provides you with so much mental clarity, and just, there's nothing better than it. I am a huge advocate for not only staying physically healthy, but mentally healthy. Because when your mental health is not in a good place, it can really take a toll on you. Coming from someone who's been through it cannot be good.
You do embody the core principle of what I want to accomplish with Smile Talk, and that is bringing on masters of their craft to speak to how they help people develop and enhance their self-esteem and confidence. Continue to do that through the work and the ventures that you are moving forward with now. Continue to do that with those that will come into the future. And I think because of all of that stuff, like I said, it brings you fulfillment, it gives you joy. But I want to ask you specifically, what makes Mitch smile?
So kind of landing the plane on this, and really with the realm of what we've been talking about, I think one of the coolest things that really brings me joy, and especially the craft of hospitality, is being able to elevate those around me. Being able to elevate people on my team. And, I say it almost every month when I send out, company-wide messages, is if you want more responsibility, come to me. I can't guarantee that something's going to come, but I at least need to know. If I know that you want more responsibility, I will do everything in my power to see if I can put you on that path. Again, my partner, Bobby, has a lot of trust in me, which has been absolutely amazing. He's been such a driving force in what my career, the short couple years it's been. So to be able to trust me on, if someone wants to become a manager or someone wants to move to a different city and help open a new venue, to kind of be the one teaching them the ways of what they need to do to be successful at it, and letting them, go. It's the coolest thing.
Yeah. Like I said, you embody every bit of what you have spoken about today. Continue to do all the good work that you will do, that I know that you will do. Now, where can people find you?
Instagram, man. People, me personally, people, reach out and ask me questions all the time. It's just at Mitch Vargo, no underscores, no periods, no nothing. But follow all our places: Forward Nightclub, Good Night John Boy, Welcome to the Farm, Glamper, Shiso, everything. Follow us, keep up to date, and come experience one of our places.
I would say that the biggest thing that I would recommend is go to a concert, especially at Forward. Do that. Those are so much fun. And then if that's not your vibe, like I said, you've got a totally different vibe. You've got a totally different niche. One place down, one place over, one place. It's not even around the corner. It's you just walk around the roundabout.
It is 10 feet away.
Literally.
Yeah.
Well, Mitch, I want to thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything that you're going to do, and couldn't be more appreciative of you popping on today.
Appreciate it, man. It's been fun.